the big thing is, and it's sort of like it'll be number one probably on the Eagles list of all their issues, and as number one on our list is Kevin Patullo. Before we get into Patullo specifically, I do have to say, I was thinking about it this morning. Man, you get the job of a lifetime, the job you always wanted, the job you couldn't believe you had. You are offensive coordinator of the Super Bowl champion, and all of a sudden you become public enemy number one, and you're sitting there and you're like, all I wanted to do was call plays. I don't even know. I feel some.
I hope he doesn't sound like that.
Well, you know what it is? It's like, what if I had come in here and done this job, and all of a sudden, 6 months in, everybody's like, you ruined the whole thing. You know?
Well, people said that.
Didn't that happen?
Well, it did happen, but I didn't actually ruin the whole thing.
You didn't actually ruin
I didn't actually ruin it. I
shocked you went with that.
Yeah, maybe I did go through that. So I do know what Kevin Patullo is feeling, and it feels horrible. And I just want to say that there is empathy. I
you
get
got
it.
tougher skin though.
I do. Well, it seems like I do.
Well, you're actually dealing with fans.
I do. Yes. But no one's been to my house, thankfully.
True. That's true.
So here's the deal. They could fire Kevin Patullo. It looks like they're going to demote, whatever the hell they do. But I want you to know as you listen, they're doing it for you. Like, this is for blood. This is for the public. This is for, we scored, more than 5 points a game, less than we did last year, and we lost in the first round, and somebody's got to pay. This is, the Phillies aren't hitting, we're going to fire Milt Thompson. Maybe that'll make the hitters better. This is for you. And the truth is that I just don't think this would make that big of a difference moving forward, or even looking back on last year. I look back on this past season and I say, okay, where would Kevin Patullo and his responsibility as play caller be on my list of things that caused the offense to fail this year? Number one would be the offensive line and their productivity. I'm sorry, Jordan, it would just be there. Number two would be Saquon and whatever his ability was this year. I kept hearing announcers go, he would have a good run and be like, see, it's there. And when I would watch, I would be like, last year that would have been a touchdown for Saquon. That would have been on my list. All of the A.J. Brown nonsense would have been before Kevin Patullo on my list, and what that forced them to do offensively, what it went through Jalen's head. Also, before Kevin Patullo on my list would be the quarterback who isn't running anymore. We look at his most successful season, 2022. He ran 160 plus times. He ran 100 times this year, and only 60 times after the first 4 games. These were the big issues, and I just don't know. You fire Patullo. This isn't me saying that I know Kevin Patullo is a great offensive coordinator. I have no idea. Maybe he's not good. But my question is this going to be the salve that changes the Eagles' fortunes going forward? And was it the problem this year? I just don't think it was. And I think it's a little unfair that he has been sort of like the poster child for the failure of a lot of different people. For a lot of different people. So yeah. I just don't think he was the big problem. I really don't.
I agree with you. And I think we have sort of, as a show, been more of, not necessarily pro Kevin Patullo, but certainly not looking to blame him for all of the woes and the inefficiencies of this offense. And he's had a rough year, man. I think I heard, I don't know if it was Ross I heard with the Midday Show, or maybe it was Joe who said this on the Midday Show, but just talking about Kevin Patullo really being in a difficult spot as the only new person in a new position of a defending Super Bowl champion.
I actually think Tyler Steen got some of that too. And
got a little bit of it,
I never even saw, I didn't even think Tyler Steen did a bad job this year. Yeah. It's just that he was a different face. But Patullo was the different face.
He was always going to be the fall guy because some people wanted someone else in here. And if the offense didn't necessarily take off and skyrocket, he's going to be the reason. Here's the crazy thing about this whole situation, Spike. It'll be interesting to see if the Eagles do make Kevin Patullo the fall guy. Because that's what it would be. He's the scapegoat. That would be the scapegoat.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if they would just outright fire him. I think Nick would fight to keep him here on his staff. I mean, he's a young coach that's sort of grown in this business with Nick. Nick endorsed him, supported him, tried to, I don't know how much of a hand he played in how things went this year, but he's certainly a Nick Sirianni guy. And Maybe they find a soft landing with moving back to passing game coordinator. I don't know, and you bring in someone else. I don't know if that's what the answer is. This is ultimately going to come back to the players having to perform and execute to not only their potential, the level of expectation, but the salary that demands they play at a high level. I don't get into the salaries a whole lot, but let's be honest. Kevin Patullo is a first-year offensive coordinator. He's supposed to take the 29th ranked passing offense somehow and make it what? I don't know. I don't know what it would suffice for everybody else. I don't know. Saquon and the offensive line not playing well. Somehow that's Kevin Patullo's fault. I love Coach Tomlin. He's escaping any blame.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned him once.
He's the run game coordinator. And again, I love Coach Stout. I'm just saying, if I'm just looking at every facet of what the problems were on offense, it didn't just boil down to play calling, to a first-year play caller. And the Eagles had to expect, from a front office and a head coaching standpoint, some rough spots here or there. So I'm not even so sure they're going to get rid of Kevin Patullo. I know all the reports are out there. To me, it would be them caving to public pressure. It can't be that they think that was the issue this year.
Well, there were enough reports out of the building that they didn't think it was the issue.
Exactly.
That they didn't think it was the issue. And 215-592-9494, do you think replacing Kevin Patullo is going to make a major difference in the offense? That is the real question.
And you're going to have Jalen with another offensive coordinator.
Right.
If you bring in someone else.
They won a Super Bowl in the first year of the offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore last year.
How did that help the passing game?
Zilch.
Yeah.
Breaking news.
After 19 seasons as head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin has stepped down.
Wow.
They got him.
Wow.
And this is not me as a Pittsburgh Steelers hater. This is actually me having empathy for Steelers fans, who a lot of them have been wanting this for several years now.
Yeah, for sure.
For several years now. I think it's good for Mike Tomlin. He's going to get a fresh start. That fan base gets a fresh start. This is not a bad thing. It's not. And I think once Harbaugh got fired in Baltimore, that left the door open for Mike Tomlin to be fired.
Who do you think is the most? Do you think Mike Tomlin is more in demand than John Harbaugh is at this point?
Ooh,
if you were a team, who would you rather have?
Ooh.
Because Tomlin he doesn't call the defense, but at least he can. You would think that he can sort of you think about schematically, defensively. It's never been.
You know what, though, Spike?
What?
Not to completely disagree with what they're saying, but Mike Tomlin's been so comfortable being that CEO coach.
Yeah.
I wonder if he has any stake in that game anymore as far as play calling.
Yeah.
Right? He's like to just delegate who's going to make those decisions. Man, I don't know who I would go with, because to me, both of them are the same coach. Both CEO coaches. Yeah. Great leaders of men. Mm-hmm. They certainly would change the culture in your building and your locker room. I don't think you can go wrong with either or.
It might really come down to an interview.
Yeah.
I know they think, or both guys sort of have their choice, but if I had a choice between the two, I think what that person said to me when I had a conversation would probably have the most weight.
Who wants that Raiders job?
I don't know.
That's a Tomlin job.
It's good news for the Giants. I mean, they should be able to get one of these guys.
They should be, unless somebody doesn't want to coach in New York.
Yeah.
Maybe he just hangs on to, if he coaches in New York, maybe he hangs on to Kafka there. I mean, their offense was better than ours this year. I know.
That is saying a lot.
It is. They scored more points per game than we did.
Miami, maybe?
Yeah.
Miami? See, the Raiders with the first pick.
Who are the Steelers hiring, by the way? Like, now the Steelers job's open for the first time in almost 20 years.
Well,
this is their fourth head coach ever.
And to bring this back to the Eagles, not in terms of a head coach thing, there's going to be a lot of offensive coordinators hired. So if they are going to move on from Patullo, they have to do it today or tomorrow or something. Because they have to start interviewing guys. They can't. The Commanders already just hired an offensive coordinator, so they have to make a decision.
So the longer this goes on,
the more it means that he's staying.
Right.
Yeah. I would say it has to happen by the end of the week. It has to. And last thing, at 215-592-9494 on Patullo. If I was Kevin Patullo, I would not take the job as pass game coordinator here. Absolutely not. The well is poisoned in Philadelphia. And if you think that I'm going to let the the offense and the quarterback that maybe got me fired to be my future.
Yeah, I got to work hand.
Well,
yeah.
Last year nobody was looking and saying, "Wait a minute, we just promoted the pass game coordinator for one of the worst pass games in the entire league. He's going to be that wasn't on him for some reason. That stink was not on him. Now, what do you even think's going to happen next year? Maybe you take some role so you have a job, but I would look for an equal job in a different city and get the hell out of here.
And Nick has to be on board with this. Part of the problem is I don't know how well Nick and Brian Johnson work together.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Because I don't know if they had any working relationship prior to Brian Johnson coming here.
So, forgive me for not remembering. Wasn't there a Brian Johnson-Jalen connection?
Yes.
Okay, all right, there was, right?
His dad coached Brian Johnson.
Okay,
yes.
All right.
So
okay.
there was a connection there.
Okay.
But in 23, when Brian Johnson was the OC, there were reports that Nick got heavily involved, almost to where he took the play calling away from Brian Johnson.
Right, I remember that, yeah.
Jalen didn't necessarily like that and that sort of thing, but he wouldn't do that in a way to Kevin Patullo, right? So, somebody he's worked with, somebody he's helped come up through the ranks. That has to factor into the equation if you're the Eagles. You don't want to create a toxic environment where the head coach is resentful that you've brought somebody else in here, and now you're taking he is the Super Bowl winning coach, and now you're going to remove him away from having anything to do with the offense?
Well, I think that is one of the...
By the way, real quick, before you go, for everybody who talks about Kellen Moore, it was Nick that saved the season by going to the running game.
Right, not Kellen Moore.
Not Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
Not Kellen Moore's passing offense.
No.
It was them going to Nick and saying, this is what we need to do.
Well, and everyone who is looking at and just the obsession over you run 4 verts and blah, 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 blah in the final play call is I would like to go back and watch the passing play calls last year after the bye week and see if there was all sorts of complicated play,
make that throw to
past
Smitty.
Yes, absolutely.
It was there.
It was there.
It was there.
Well, you have a chance to throw it when there's 1 defender or 3 defenders. It's just a math issue. All right.
I know some people say Smitty should have caught it, and I get it, but a better throw could have been made.
Oh, for sure.
You got to make a better throw there.
215-592-9494. Do you think moving on from Kevin Patullo will make that big of a difference in the Eagles' offense?